Hey you, yes you, let me ask you something, yeah? Have you ever fumbled an absolute 10 out of 10 before? A 10 out of 10 baddie? I'm talking drop dead looks, giving you all the hints in the world, wide open goal in front of you and you just fumble them, yeah? Well, worry not. You'll live. You see, folks, as a young man that has let 10s slip through his fingers in the past, I'll be the first to tell you that everyone fumbles a baddie every now and again. You may have a few sleepless nights, but listen, man, life goes on. There's no shame in fumbling a baddie. Now, you see, fumbling two back-to-back, that's different. It might take a toll on one's mental health, letting the potential love of your life slip through your fingers, only to let another contender slip through is actually kind of wild. But again, it's nothing to end it all over, you know what I'm saying? However, if we get to 3, now we're in the danger zone, because I'm here to tell you that if you fumbled one baddie, you're rather normal. If you fumbled 2, you're at worst unlucky. But if you fumbled 3 baddies back to back, you aren't normal, nor are you unlucky. You, my friend, are Alpine F1. You see, folks, the Enstone-based Formula 1 team entering the 2022 season had 3 baddies at their disposal and somehow, within just 2 years, fumbled all 3 of them. Who are these 3 baddies, you ask? Well, allow me to explain in detail. So you see, it started... Actually, you know what? No. We're not doing anything until you like the video, alright? You know something? My dad was talking to me a while back and he was like, son, how come you don't remind people to like the video? You know, you'd probably get way more likes if you just asked them to do it. So yeah. You know, so he's right. Like the video. All you have to do is just press the button. All my life, all you have to do is just press the button. I'm not trying to be on some Squidward spear change type timing, but please, based on the views some of my vids get, there's no reason I should have a certain like count. My like count should be way higher. I can't lie to you, all right? Just like the video. As a matter of fact, we're not going anywhere until you like it. What's that? You did? Huh. You actually liked the video. Wow, wonderful. Okay, you win. As a reward for being a good subscriber, I will continue this story. Let's get into it. Baddie number 1 is Fernando Alonso. Now, to understand why Fernando Alonso is such a fumble, we have to do some background checks because this wasn't Alpine and Fernando Alonso's first rodeo. You see, folks, real wheel knowers will know that this was Alonso's 3rd stint at the Enstone-based Formula 1 team. No matter how many times they broke up in the past, they always got back together, and it's quite easy to see why. Alpine were the first serious team to take a chance on Fernando in F1 after he spent his rookie season in 2001 driving a Minardi that had 0 chance of points, much less podiums and wins. Alpine, which was Renault at the time, signed Fernando to a testing role in 2002 before promoting him to a full-time seat in 2003, and by 2005, the pair had won the Formula 1 World Championship. A feat like this would be doubled in 2006 when Alonso beat 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher for the championship, his 2nd in a row. Didn't stop him from leaving Renault though. As a matter of fact, Alonso actually signed with McLaren before 2006 had even started, and the bold decision to leave the team that was run by his manager Flavio Briatore was a risky one, but it ended up being one that paid off. Except it paid off in dramatically short terms. Yes, he won 4 races in 2007, but Alonso's McLaren stint was an absolute nightmare thanks to his clashes with rookie teammate Lewis Hamilton, and Spygate and all of that jazz and what have you. He ended up losing the World Championship that year by 1 point, even though if you argue it, well, based on inter-team conflict, both he or Hamilton could have easily won the championship that year. Anyways, I know what you're asking right now. Where did Fernando go when this was too much for him? Yes, that's right. Back into the arms of his day 1, Renault. By the time he went back in 2008 though, all wasn't as peachy as before. The car wasn't as good as 2006 or 2005, and he had a lot of lifting to do considering his teammate was rookie Nelson Piquet Jr. Flavio Briatore realized that if the team didn't win, not only would Fernando probably leave again, but Renault themselves would quit the sport altogether. So he sat down and schemed arguably the biggest scandal in the history of F1, Crashgate, putting his credibility and status as an F1 competitor on the line, all to keep Renault in his good graces, only for Fernando to win Japan, the literal next race, on pure pace. Safe to say, come 2009 when word got out about what Flavio did, Alonso left Renault for the second time in his career. This time he went to Ferrari. While there, he would compete for world championships, but he didn't capture any. After this, he actually went back to McLaren for a second time. But 4 years of mid was so much for him that he retired from the sport altogether and went to endurance racing, where he won the 24 Hours of Le Mans 2 times in a row. This is where Alpine and Alonso reunite for the third time. In 2021, Alonso rejoined Alpine, and the partnership actually got off to a decent start. The 2021 Alpine was a decent car, one capable of scoring points on a regular basis. He even got a podium at Qatar. Everything was going peachy. But then 2022 came around, and this was the first year of the ground effect regs. Alpine were better than 2021, with their car pretty much being solidly 4th fastest at most tracks. But despite this, 2 things would bother Fernando. Thing 1, reliability. A DNF in Jeddah, a hydraulic failure during Australia qualifying that kinda domino affected into him scoring no points, and issues in Austria. Alonso saw many points that season evaporate due to his car's inability to hold itself together despite its speed. Thing 2, his own teammate. Yes, that's right. In 2021, Alonso held back a hard-charging Lewis Hamilton at Hungary to ensure that his leading teammate Esteban Ocon could win the race, which he did. Esteban would even repay him in Qatar by doing the same to hold back Sergio Perez so Alonso could score a podium, which he did. Come 2022 though, things were a bit more elbows out between the pair, much to Alonso's shock and dismay. The same Jeddah race I mentioned earlier where he didn't finish due to reliability saw him in a tense battle with Ocon that almost saw him get put in the wall. Alonso also had a run-in with Ocon on lap 1 of the Hungarian Grand Prix, the same place where just a year prior he had defended aggressively to keep Hamilton back from beating Ocon, saw Ocon defend aggressively from Alonso just to stay ahead on the first lap. These factors frustrated Fernando, and after Sebastian Vettel announced his retirement from F1 on July 28, Aston Martin would announce Fernando Alonso as his replacement 4 days later. So boom, there you have it. Alpine fumbled a baddie, and not just any baddie, but their last world champion for the 3rd time in a row, and now they needed somebody to partner Ocon. I should also add that another part that made Alonso leave was that Aston just gave him a better offer. I believe Aston's contract offer was 2 years plus 1, or just a 2-year deal altogether, while Alpine were trying to give him a 1+1 deal, which he wasn't too happy about. Anyways, they needed a replacement for Fernando Alonso, and luckily they had a junior program, and in that junior program they had a legitimate diamond in the rough. A guy with 3 consecutive junior titles won, and who was already their reserve driver and ready to step up. But little did they know at the time, but that diamond in the rough would be their next fumble. Baddie number 2 is Oscar Piastri. Now, to understand why Oscar Piastri is such a fumble, we must do some background checks, because based on junior success, he had the makings of being the next big thing for Alpine. Just like Lewis Hamilton, Oscar's first taste of competitive racing came driving remote-controlled cars, and from there, he would do karting and would eventually climb the junior Formula ladder. In 2019, Piastri would win his first major championship, the Formula Renault Euro Cup, and this would begin the aforementioned hot streak of championships he'd go on to win in the junior categories. He would join Prema to contest the 2020 Formula 3 Championship alongside Logan Sargent and Frederick Vesti. Not only that, but this is also where his relationship with Alpine would begin, as the team would sign Piastri to their junior program leading up to that season. Piastri would win a second junior championship in a row, snatching the F3 title from his teammate Logan Sargent at the last race at Mugello after Sargent was involved in a lap 1 crash that completely wiped him from contention for the championship. As a matter of fact, we're gonna get back to that crash one day. Mark my words. Anyways, yeah, Oscar won the championship by just 3 points over ART's Théo Pourchaire. This title with Prema saw an extension in their partnership, and Piastri would compete in the 2021 Formula 2 Championship, teaming with another former F3 champion with Prema, Robert Schwartzman. Piastri would perform brilliantly, especially in the second half of the year, and would win the Formula 2 Championship, his third straight junior championship. You know who else won F3 and F2 back-to-back? Yes, folks, that's correct, George Russell. And he went straight to Formula 1 after that success. But unfortunately for Piastri, all he could get was a reserve driving role with his team, Alpine, because they didn't have any spots for him because Alonso and Ocon were on pretty good deals. There was no space in 2022. Both drivers were locked in. And this was to be expected because despite Piastri's obvious talent, they had 2 drivers that were doing the job. Yeah, but surely if one of them were to leave, Piastri would be able to slot right in. And that was certainly Alpine's plan. They even gave him a couple tests in older spec Formula 1 cars just to get him accustomed to the machinery, and they even allowed him to be not just a reserve driver for them, but a reserve driver for McLaren if they needed a driver, because this would expand the opportunity for Piastri to race in 2022, which would help him get some experience so that come 2023, if they needed him, he would have racing experience under his belt and he wouldn't be such a novice. How nice, you know, like how sportsmanlike to give your driver to another team to be a reserve. You know, it's just wholesome, isn't it? Anyways, baddie number 1, Fernando Alonso, announces that he's signing with Aston. So boom, Alpine naturally say, well, I mean, Alonso's gone, but you know, all is well. We got Piastri, our reserve driver, ready to step up for us. And they announced him. They said, yeah, man, here's Oscar Piastri. He will be driving for Alpine's Formula 1 team come 2023. Only for Oscar Piastri to drop one of, if not the most infamous tweet in the history of Formula 1. Yup, he rejected them. So bad that they went to court about it. So Alpine were in court and they were like, listen man, you're rejecting us, but we deadass gave you a whole ass contract last November before the season even started, saying, hey, you're gonna be a reserve for us, and if one of our guys leaves, we're gonna sign you for 2023. Piastri and his manager, 9-time Formula 1 race winner Mark Webber, clapped back. They were like, actually no, what you gave us was a terms sheet, not a contract. We asked for a real contract, an actual real contract, before the season even started, and you said you would give us one, and you didn't. But then Alpine were like, actually we did give you one. What do you mean? We told you the whole plan in March. But then Webber was like, actually no, that was just another draft. We wanted a real contract offer and you never gave us one when I requested one before the season. Why? And Alpine were like, because we were trying to give you a joint reserve deal with McLaren to increase your chances of racing in 2022. That stuff takes time, Mark Webber, and you know that. Why are you being like this? Webber claps back saying, listen, that's great, but where's the real contract for Alpine? Where's the real Alpine contract? Alpine were like, listen bro, in May, we sent you the whole ordeal. We showed you the whole roadmap, the whole plan. We were like, listen, reserve for 2022, race seat for 2023. If Alonso stayed, we'd get you a Williams seat. And if Alonso left, we'd put you in the vacant Alpine seat, bro. Stop! You see, that's your problem, Alpine. Everything with you is plans and proposals, but no real hard physical contract to sign. But that's okay though, because we got a contract, alright. Just not from y'all. Alpine are like, what do you mean you got a contract not from us? So Webber drops the bomb. He's like, listen man, it's a good thing you finalized that McLaren reserve deal, because that's what sparked the relationship between us. Because the second they decided they might give Ricardo the boot for being too mid, we slid in quicker than a loser in a 10's DMs. Listen, you see, Alpine, while you were playing around with our contract, we got first dibs at McLaren if they chose to sack Daniel for 2023. But then Alpine were like, listen, man, what do you mean? But they're not sacking Daniel, though. He just put out a whole ass statement saying he's committed to the end of next year. Oh, no, actually, we're sacking him. What? Why? I mean, he's mid. What are you talking about? Why? Have you not been watching this season? Why do you think you're fourth in the championship? Do you have any idea how much his contract costs? Listen, FIA, clearly these guys are phonies. We are in the right, obviously. Now give us the rights to Piastri. The FIA was like, actually, no. To this day, you only signed a term sheet with Piastri. Meanwhile, McLaren actually signed a real contract with him to slide in if anyone left the team. So, yeah, McLaren wins. Thanks, FIA. Anyways, Alpine, can we still get our FP1s this year? No! Okay, alright, whatever. Boom! Alpine fumbled 2 baddies in a row. Within a few days, they fumbled their most successful driver ever and their most exciting young driver in the whole world. But it's alright, folks, because they still have Esteban Ocon, who signed with them in 2020 and, unlike Piastri and Alonso, is still here. You see, they say Ocon is a toxic teammate, but honestly, that's all malarkey. Ocon's a great guy. The only way he'd blow up is if they literally put someone he downright despises in the vacant Alpine seat. Oh. Baddie number 3 is Esteban Ocon. Now, to understand why Esteban is such a fumble, we must do some background checks, because based on his time with the team, it's hard to imagine how this even happened. You see, folks, Alpine gave Esteban a second chance at life in 2020 after he spent a year out of F1 after losing his Racing Point seat to Lance Stroll. Esteban and Racing Point had a decent time together, and he showed great promise, especially despite having a few spats with his experienced teammate Sergio Perez. But that was the past, folks. You see, the current day saw Ocon and Alpine together forever, right? When they were Renault in 2020, he scored his first ever podium in Formula 1 at the 2020 Sakir Grand Prix. When his teammate Daniel Ricciardo left, Fernando Alonso slotted right in, and the two performed well together, with the peak of this coming with Ocon's aforementioned 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix win, where Alonso's defense from Lewis and Ocon's defense from Sebastian Vettel saw Esteban score his very first Formula 1 win. Now, as I mentioned earlier, their relationship broke down in 2022, and even after Alonso announced he was leaving, they had another coming together at Brazil that made Alonso lose his mind so bad that he said in an interview that he couldn't wait to leave Alpine that year. Well, Alpine made the boss call to replace Fernando Alonso with Ocon's literal worst enemy, Pierre Gasly, a guy he's had beef with ever since karting. Now, as one can imagine, Esteban and Pierre didn't really get along, but to be fair, it wasn't all that bad in year one, except in a few instances. Allow me to explain. At the Australian Grand Prix in 2023, a misguided block by Pierre saw him take out both himself and Ocon, a crash that not only cost Alpine an easy double points finish, but worst of all, it cost Nico Hülkenberg what would have easily been his and Haas's first ever podium in F1, a crime that Gasly's yet to serve time behind bars for committing. There was also Japan, where Gasly was told to let Ocon through, and despite obliging, he absolutely raged in his car after the race. But alas, both men ended 2023 with podiums. Ocon scored a podium at the Monaco Grand Prix, and Pierre Gasly scored a podium at the Dutch Grand Prix. However, 2024 was a different story. The car was ass. It was arguably the worst car on the grid, and their beef was still fresh. And after Ocon made a Hail Mary send on Gasly on lap 1 of the Monaco Grand Prix, a send that was so bad that Ocon actually got a grid penalty for Canada, Ocon and Alpine had enough of each other and announced that 2024 would be their last season together. But Alpine's head was still on Mars, particularly Bruno Famin, who was the team principal. So much so that rumors began circulating that he was going to be sacked by Alpine before the season even ended. And these rumors were supported because Alpine Jr. Jack Doohan took Ocon's place during FP1 for Canada. They even low-key got confirmed after it was revealed that Williams had actually planned to sign Ocon to replace Logan Sargent mid-season, only for that move to be vetoed by Flavio Briatore. Yes, Flavio Briatore, you remember him? He's an Alpine advisor now in 2024. Anyways, he blocked the move as he thought it was going to make Williams better and it was going to make them worse, which honestly, seeing that Williams had a bad car and Alpine had a bad car, giving them Ocon would have just made their team even better, because they would have had Albon and Ocon, and they would have probably had like Gasly and Doohan, who's inexperienced. So it would have nerfed their team and made Williams better. Yeah, they may have hated Ocon, but they didn't hate him that bad. Anyways, Ocon signed with Haas, and as of me writing this script, Alpine are still yet to sign a replacement. So there you have it, folks. 3 baddies, 3 fumbles. In just 2 years, Alpine lost their last world champion, their last junior champion, and their last race winner in 3 completely different scenarios. As of me writing this, they are now left with Pierre Gasly and either Jack Doohan, Mick Schumacher, maybe even Valtteri Bottas. With their new team principal Oliver Oakes, it might even be Paul Aron or even Nikita Mazepin. But the bottom line is, coupled with a backmarker car, Enstone is going through it. And these instances of fumbling reflect what has really been the team's inability to get on top of their internal affairs and suffering the results of said affairs, because it's easy to see that everyone that's left Alpine so far has gone on to greener pastures. Alonso went to Aston Martin and scored the 3rd most podiums of anyone in 2023 and bagged a 4th place in the World Drivers' Championship. Oscar Piastri had a mid-McLaren at the start of 2023, but upgrades turned it into an absolute beast. This beast is what he would use to get his first ever sprint victory at Qatar, and would later go on to score his first ever Grand Prix victory at the 2024 Hungarian Grand Prix in a car that's arguably now the best one on the grid. And Esteban is going to Haas to team with rookie Oliver Biermann, which means he'll probably be the team leader next year at Haas in a car that is currently probably better than Alpine. So yeah, folks, let this be a lesson to you viewers. When a baddie walks into your life, don't fumble them, or you'll live to regret it for the rest of your naturally born life. Heed my words, because chances are if you don't, you're gonna turn out like the Donnies at Alpine F1, directionless and scrambling for a past that they allowed to slip through their fingers. My name is Intern, I talk wheel, and thanks for watching.